For this video, I want to give you an idea of my thought process as I finish up the rest of this poster's design. Now, for this exercise, I do encourage you to have your own style and your own layout ideas. But if you want to use mine as the starting point for your layout, feel free to do so for this exercise. The first thing that I always do is I want to make sure my poster has all the necessary information placed down into it. By placing all of the important bits of it, it's kind of like putting a puzzle together. It ensures that I have everything. Then later on I can go back and start sizing and placing and making sure it reads well. The first thing we did for this poster was to make a custom alphabet and use that alphabet to design the name of our band. So in this case, I want to go open that. We'll copy it, and I'm going to paste it off to the side and keep it off here for now. The other information that we're going to use for this poster can be found in your client's email that was sent to you. In my case, I can scan through the rest of this email and make sure that I've got all the important information included. So as I'm taking it one paragraph at a time, I can see I've got the name of the band up here. I can see the name of their tour is the Spring Tour. So I'll copy that, jump back here, grab my type tool, and I'll paste it into this. Again, I'm not too worried about the size and font choices right now. Later on I can go back and customize all that. Next paragraph, they're talking about the deal that they have and how they want to promote two different posters. In this one, they're talking about they're a rock and roll kind of jazz, and so they want to make sure that the spirit or the look and feel of it is there. I think going back to my design, it does have kind of a grungy rock and roll feel, so that seems to take care of that bit. In these next couple of ones, I can pay attention. The first poster needs to be big and bold. They want to use the saxophone or the trumpet as the main instrument focus, But the main one is going to be a 20 by 30. Right now, what I want to focus on is this 11 by 17 that has all the tour dates. Since these tour dates are going to be very, very important, we'll make sure to copy those into here. So Command C, jump back into here, grab my type tool, and I'll paste that. Remember, when you copy and paste from one to another, you will lose some of your formatting. Later on, we'll come back and we'll add that to there. The next paragraph talks about the ticket information. And so ticket information and full details can be found here. That whole sentence is very important to keep in there. So maybe I'll copy that, grab my type tool, we'll place that into there. And my client is saying they need something about the sales tax. So this whole sentence can easily be added to there as well. We'll copy that, jump back in, and let's give it its own paragraph to put it into there. Finally, as I come back to here, they want everything to look together, and they've attached some important logos, and those logos need to be a part of my design. Remember, the logos can be found in their own folder. In our case, it's called the band logos, and there should be 3 of them. You should have one based on whatever company, whatever organization, and then of course Ticketmaster is selling their tickets. I've already got them opened up. They're just regular EPS files. So we'll copy those, and I'll paste these off to the side as well. There's the LITs. And finally Ticketmaster. All right. Once you've got everything onto your design, now we need to start to determine what's the most important thing and where everything should be placed. Now, when I do this, I think of the terms of Mama Bear, Papa Bear, and Baby Bear. The most important information is Papa Bear, and that's got to be the one thing that captures your attention. It doesn't have to be the most detailed or the most what your poster is about. So for instance, if I'm looking at this, this particular poster is about the tour dates, and it gives this information really as the most important stuff. But to grab my attention, I need to know that this is about the Choctaw Jazz Spring Tour. And so really, I want the name of my tour group or my band to be the largest, boldest thing that I see on my design. Additionally, I can use the picture of the saxophone, having it nice and large as an attention-giving device. Think about it as if you were walking into a movie theater. Usually you see all of the different movies on their posters on the wall. Well, what grabs your attention is the large images and the name of the movie. If you're really interested in going to see it, then you start to get closer and you start to see the movie times and when it's coming out and maybe even who is playing with it. So that secondary information, that's kind of considered mama bear. And I would really consider the tour dates, maybe even the purchasing information as more of a mama bear kind of thing. Still very, very important, but it shouldn't be the largest part of my design. And then finally, you've got baby bear to balance everything out. Baby bear, just because it's smaller or less impactful doesn't mean it's any less important, but those are things like your logos or your ticket information, the smaller details about that. If they're truly invested, then they'll look much, much closer and pay attention to these details. So the first thing that I want to make sure I get right is the Papa Bear information. So I'm going to let that be my images that I have. I'm going to drag this off and give it a little more room, and the title for my band. In looking at this, I've got a nice large area up at the top, and so I'm going to let this read from the top down. I'll drag this onto here. Didn't get my T, so let's select that too. Yeah, we'll drag that over there. And I'm just going to lock down my information that's on the background. So there's that. I don't even have to worry about color at this stage. Really, if it reads well in black and white, then it should read well in color if I do my job right. I can place Spring Tour. Now this is the name of the tour that I have, so I do want to make sure that's nice and large because it's not just them playing, it's them playing on their tour. So I'll get Spring Tour, maybe pick a font that would work well with this, and I think even putting this in all caps. So I'm going to choose my character styles. We'll make it nice and large, maybe even make it nice and bold. That looks really, really good right there. So there's Spring Tour, Choctaw Jazz. I've already listed out the different pictures of the venues going in a list order here. Kind of knew that going into it, so I want to keep it as a list. Place my tour information down here. Again, roughing everything out as far as how much room I have. So I've got lots of room right here. I can put information off to the side. I could make this into a 2-column list. And then I've got some information or some room. I can put some smaller things down here. And so this is where I would want to put maybe the ticket information can be found at, let's do Choctaw Jazz. That fits really, really well right there. And then here's the information about ordering and adding taxes. Maybe we'll take this, center it up. We'll see if that fits well down there. The other thing I'm not worried about is font sizes, at least not for now. Though you do want to keep in mind that if you make something way too small and unreadable, that it's not going to work out. And then finally, I can see how much room I've got left to put all of these logos down here. For now, I can just place them there. Let's scale them down. And I want it to fit nice and well down here at the very, very bottom. It is starting to feel a little bit cramped. And I want to make sure that this is readable and that there's enough breathing room between everything. If one logo is too small, or at least it doesn't seem visually as weighty as the others, you'll want to move things around and make sure you've got plenty of room for that. So Choctaw Spring Tour, I feel like everything on the bottom is a little bit too cramped, so I'm going to give it a little more breathing room by selecting what I have at the top. Let's see if I can make it slightly smaller, maybe bring everything else up. See how well that fits. So that's looking pretty good right there. I've got it all able to fit right here. Now let's see if I can start to finesse this out and add a few more details and some minor things to it. I like the way that this looks at the top, but I don't like the way my list is looking down here at the bottom. Of course, it's giving me all the information, but it's all kind of equally weighted. What I want to do is I want the most important things here to stand out. And in this case, it's really the tour date. So you've got April 23rd in Thalhimer Hall in Jackson, Mississippi. May 7th, Red Rocks, Denver, Colorado. So all of this needs to seem very separate in its own particular area. Here's how I would think about doing this. I'm going to copy this over here. Grab my type tool. Let's take it one thing at a time. So I've got April 23rd. I'm going to cut that and paste it away right here. If I want April 23rd to stand out, oops, let's make sure it's selected first. I could highlight that. I could easily put that into a bold-faced font like Impact. So that would stand out really, really good. I could make it much, much larger. But again, I've got a lot of good area that's spaced out over here. So I'm going to take it even a step further. Maybe the date will be in its own area, and I'll put the venue, the place, and the city off to the side here. Now I've got a good linear design going across here, and each one can stand out. So I've got the image of our venue. Maybe we will bring these a little bit closer together so I can make them larger but still take up the same amount of room. So I'm going to bring those together. Click and drag down. That way they're much larger, but they're still evenly spaced. Great. So I've got April 23rd, Thalumar Hall. Oops. We'll triple click and see. I was using Avenir for the title of this. So Thalumar Hall, Jackson, Mississippi. Maybe this one will make that a little bit bolder, and we'll even keep where it's there. So now we've got even a pecking order. You've got April 23rd as one size, Thalumar, Jackson, everything else as another size. And this is starting to look really, really good. If I wanted to see what that would look like, all I got to do is quickly duplicate those, and you can see how very easily each one looks nice and distinct versus just listing out everything off to the side. So this is kind of a style that I like. So undo that. I will make a copy of it so that I can go back over here and I can type in the information that I need. So this will be May 7th. This will be at Red Rocks in Denver, Colorado. I do recommend copying and pasting wherever possible. Simply that'll keep you from misspelling any kind of words. But for the sake of time, since I got here, we'll do this. May 7th, this will be May 13th. This one will be at the Levitt Shell. It's where Elvis first had his concert in Memphis, Tennessee. Again, delete that away so I don't accidentally redo it. And the last two will be in June 5th. Riverfest in Little Rock, Arkansas. And the final one, we'll make a copy of it June 10th. Oops. There we go. This will be in Austin 360, Austin, Texas. Great. And I can delete away that information too. Zooming back out, now my poster is really starting to come together. If anything, I can go back in to make them easier to spread out since they're all evenly spaced. I'm going to select each one of these and do Command G. I'm just going to group them all together to make it easy to select and move them around if necessary. So I can take this one and bring it up, and I can do the same for all of the others and spread those out. Let's do an even distribution. Perfect. Okay, that's looking really good. Now let's see if we can clean up some of the information that's down below. Since I've got a nice center alignment here, notice how this line is kind of pushed off to the left-hand side. So I'm going to select this. We'll center that up too. Bring it back under here. Now this is important information because if I'm really invested in purchasing tickets and I want to be able to view it, I would want to be able to quickly and easily find this information, especially for Choctaw Jazz or the 1-800 number. So maybe this two words need to be nice and bold. Since we were using Avenir on everything, I'm also going to change this out to Avenir. We'll make it book. That's looking good. And then we'll use these words as being more of a bold-faced font. Avenir Black. This will be Avenir Black as well. I am sticking to the one font for this. Usually you want to keep your font choices within one, no more than two. I always like to pick a font that's got a good variety of choices to choose from. And then orders are subject to sales tax of such and such. As you're reading through this, make sure there's no awkward breaks in between it. So for instance, if I'm seeing the sales tax is at 7.3% and 8.5 processed down there, I would want to pull this line back up to here and then maybe break off something like this. That way the numbers are staying together and everything else is set there. Same way the word tickets is on its own line. Let's go ahead and have that whole sentence just be on its own separate size for there. Actually, let's pull up processing since we got the room to do it. Charge per order. Let's see. Sales tax. Yeah, we'll break it back at processing. For this one, maybe I'd make this a little bit smaller since it's not as important as this. You can bring it down and be able to get away with something like that. If necessary, let's see what it looks like. I think that even looks better with having the two different lines for there. What do you think? All right. Again, going back, looking through everything, making sure there's plenty of breathing room, but all of the information is still appropriately aligned and appropriately put in good proximity to each other. Now let's go back up to the top and play around with Choctaw Jazz and see if we can make it stand out along with Spring Tour. One thing I haven't touched on is color. So as I start to add color to it, I can use the color swatches that I've selected. Maybe if I wanted to make it this kind of reddish pink, I don't have to stay with this color. I can even go to my transparencies, change up some of the blending modes, and this will give me some darker, richer colors and also pick up on a little bit of that texture. I love the way the red looks on this. Let's see if we can take it a step further. I'm going to ungroup everything. I'll set this back to multiply as well. I ungrouped it, I lost it all. So we'll group that, set that to multiply. Oops. Undo is what I want to do. Save it. There we go. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, set that back to be multiplied. We could change up maybe the color of that. Let's see what that looks like as a blue. Meh. Maybe even a lighter blue. Meh. See, I don't have all the things selected, so let's go back and redo this. Check that. Group it. Now let's see what this can do. Overlay, color burn. Ooh, way too dark. Hard light. That actually looks kind of cool in itself. It's not as light as the others. Set this jazz back to being multiplied. Oh, gotta get all of it. And that's looking really good. That stands out very, very, very well. I'm liking the way that looks, so I'm going to keep that. See if we can make Spring Tour stand out. Some other ways you can make things stand out is by adding something to the background and letting the letters almost be cut out from it. I'm going to grab my rectangle tool and let's place it on top of a rectangle. We'll send it to the back. And what if this rectangle was almost that bluish color at the top? I believe we set that to be kind of a soft light or a hard light blend to it. This way I can take the word Spring Tour, knock that out as being either orange or yellow, and so now I'm incorporating a little bit of the color of the background into the foreground, and that looks really, really good itself. Here's another great little tip. If you select your words, you can further refine the way they look by warping them. I'm going to go to Object, Envelope Distort, Make with Warp. Now the best thing about warping is you've got all these different little pre-made options, and you can arc it, you can have it do some flagging, this kind of thing. That actually looks really, really good. I don't want to do something as dramatic as that. For mine, I just kind of want one side to be a little bit larger. Yeah, that looks good. Then I can make this a little bit taller. And let's have the background match that up as well. So maybe I'll select this and pull that up. Doing this kind of just breaks up the text, breaks up a little bit of the monotony of having everything so perfectly aligned or so perfectly squared off, because you want it to look jazzy, you want it to look really interesting. And that's just a quick and easy way of doing that. Again, I did that by selecting my text. I went to Object, and it was the envelope distortion with the warp is how I was able to do that. Now that I've got the top looking really good, let's go back to our middle portion. As I'm reading these, I want each one to stand out on their own, and maybe I can start to incorporate some of the other colors. So one thing I can do, just like I added a background to the spring tour, let's grab my rectangle tool. Let's see if I can add some sort of background to the back of these. Again, I'll send it to the back. Now, of course, if I choose a darker color, then I would need to make my text be a little bit lighter, so it would need to be something like the white, so that works out really well. Or if I chose a lighter color, it may not show up as well. Let's see what that looks like. If I chose a lighter color, I could stay with the darker colors. If anything, I don't have to stay with just one color. I can always alternate those back and forth as well. I'm liking the way that looks, so maybe we'll keep it at that. And we'll make a couple of copies and put one behind each of the designs. Now, since they're all exactly the same size, I don't have to worry about changing up the size of my rectangles, but I do want to make sure everything's nice and evenly aligned. Maybe we'll pull that down some. That looks good right there. So far, so good. Let's see if we can take it a step farther. I'm going to pull this out. I like the way it's going behind this, so maybe I'll even extend it out a little bit further. Another design element to think about is overlapping of elements. This adds a little bit of dimension to your design. It makes it look a lot more complex and a lot more just interesting to look at, versus if you had everything nice and evenly, nothing's touching, a flat design. Then we can come in with our colors, and let's see if we can play around with some of the color schemes that we have for our text. Maybe we'll stick that and let that be blue. Meh. Maybe I will, let's see what happens if I swap up my colors. Maybe I can have some blue and some looking like that. Let's see. Maybe it's just the hot pink that I don't like. But I'm going to take those, multiply them. I really like that red. The red's already being used up here in the jazz, so we'll continue working through that. Although this kind of looks cool in itself. This was set to hard light. That'll give me some of the green. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll have each one rotate back and forth a different color, but we'll keep all of those yellow. However you want your design, this is your design. If you don't like the look and feel of it, you can always, of course, change it up. Let's change this to that blue, but we're going to set that to be a hard light. Back out, see how well it reads. So far, so good. It's coming along really, really well. It didn't take a lot to do this. Remember, the first thing we did was start to place everything. Then it's simply a matter of playing around with the look and feel of all of the other stuff. As far as information goes at the bottom, now this does read really well as just solid black text. But since I don't have black used anywhere else, I'm going to continue on with the color schemes that I've chosen. So we'll keep those blue. And even the logos that you had. Now, these logos were sent to us as one color logos. Usually one color are always going to be in black, and so feel free to change the color of these. If somebody ever sends you something as a full color logo, you do want to make sure that you can change those to a one color so that you can make it whatever, but you always want to stay within the needs of the client. In this case, I'm going to let us change these colors of the logos up. Let's see what we can get away with. There's a dark red. Those can either be in blue. I'm going to keep those in blue just so that it matches the style that we have here. All right, I'm liking the way this looks. Maybe some final touches I can have if I wanted the words Choctaw Jazz to stand out is you could easily add a drop shadow or some sort of little embellishment to make it stand out. Drop shadows can be found under Effects, Stylize. Let's add a drop shadow. I hate the way Illustrator does drop shadows, but if you turn on Preview, get an idea of what it looks like. The downside is you can see it starting to multiply with what's below it, so this may not necessarily be the best thing to do for that. Maybe I'll select just Jazz. Let's see what this looks like. We'll go to Effect, Stylize, Drop Shadow. No, simply not going to work out. I'm not going to deal with that, so we'll keep it the way it's looking from here. I do like the way that everything of this tends to tends to work. Let's see, under normal, let's see, oh, I see what the issue is. I'm going to ungroup this. I'm going to set all of these to be normal. Now I'm going to group it and multiply it. Now let's see if I can add a drop shadow. Stylize, drop shadow, bingo, that's what I'm looking for. The reason why it's working well now and I can't see the drop shadow below it is because when I group them together, these were already set to be multiply. Instead, before you group it, if you had all of the blending modes set to normal, then you group it, then you set it to multiply, you get this kind of effect. Okay, now the word jazz is really, really popping out. I kind of like the look and feel of this. Maybe we'll bring it in just a little bit more. Get a little bit of, let's see, a little more blur. That looks good. And we'll set that to be there. All right, so I've got all of my information on here. It's simply a matter of finessing everything to make sure it all fits well into this. But other than that, this is a good design. When you finish up your design, and you've got everything looking good, you could go back and play around with the color schemes that you have. If you want to quickly and easily change these out, it's simply a matter of selecting the elements, choosing another kind of color, and seeing what those would look like. I do encourage you to just play around with it. Just see what it comes up with and get an idea of how things can be placed and where things can be placed. All right, once we've finished up with everything, we now need to get it ready to be saved, packaged, and submitted to Moodle or emailed to me for grading. There's two things that I want you to turn in. The first thing we're going to create is a package folder for your design. To do this, let's go to File, down to Package, and the process for packaging is very similar to working in InDesign. It first may prompt you to save your document, so if you haven't done so already, we can hit Save. Then the next thing it's going to do is to ask you where do you want to create your folder. In our case, I'm going to click on the little folder icon and I'm going to choose the desktop so they'll be quickly and easily found. As far as the name of the folder, you can name it whatever you want. By default, it's just going to give you the name of the document and add the word folder at the end. We do want to make sure all of the options are checked on. We want to copy any of the links, any of the fonts, and create a simple report. So when you click Package, it'll also give you a font warning. This is okay. We'll say okay to that. And after a couple of seconds, it's going to take all of the appropriate information and package it together into one folder. Now if this little alert pops up, we don't have to show the package. You can just say okay. And if you go to your desktop, you should be able to find a folder, here it is, that's got the Jazz Poster name on it. And inside of that folder, you've got all of your fonts that were used. You've got an Illustrator document to be able to be opened and any of the links to any of the images that we've used as well. The next thing I want you to save is a PDF version of this. And this PDF needs to be something that you would send to a printer. So to do this, let's go to File, down to Save As. As far as the font format, or excuse me, the format needs to be, choose Adobe PDF, and let's locate that package folder that we already saved. Mine was on the desktop. Here's the Jazz Poster folder, and we want to save it inside of this folder. So with PDF format selected, I've still got the name of it on my PDF. We'll hit Save. As far as the PDF options, go to Marks and Bleeds, turn on all of your printer's marks, and make sure we use the document bleed settings. When we hit Save PDF, this will take just a moment to save it up as a PDF. And then now we can go back to our Jazz Poster folder, and that PDF should now be a part of the folder that we have. To submit this to Moodle or to email it, we need to compress the folder that has everything inside of it. So to make a compressed folder, select the folder, hold down Control, and click on it. Then choose the word compress in the name of your folder. And after a second or two, this will create a zip file. And this zip file is what you need to upload to Moodle. If you attempt to upload the folder or any of the individual files inside of it, it will not work. Additionally, if you attempt to compress just the files, it's not going to get everything in the folder. So make sure the entire folder is compressed, and this is what you'll upload to Moodle once you're finished.